Here's some grim math to start your day. Pirates have exactly 50 games left this season, beginning tonight against the Cardinals at PNC Park. They need to go 22-28 the rest of the way to avoid 100 losses. I'm here to tell you, that ain't happening. Good morning to you. Good Tuesday morning. I'm Dejan Kovacevic of DK Pittsburgh Sports. This is Daily Shot of Pirates. Comes your way bright and early every weekday. If you're into football and or hockey, I also offer up daily shots of Steelers and Penguins right where you found this. Your first pitch tonight is 7:05 p.m. Jay Happ going for St. Louis. Stephen Brault for the Pirates. A couple of lefties. I'll be there to cover it for DK Pittsburgh Sports. Looking forward to it. Always. Always. Who doesn't look forward to baseball? You know, even in this context. There's a lot of stuff to look forward to the rest of the way. Most of it on an individualized level. If you're talking about the guys that are established major leaguers, there obviously aren't that many of them, but Brian Reynolds, as we discussed on the show yesterday, is in what could seriously be considered right now an MVP race. Reynolds is a candidate for the Gold Glove in center field. Jacob Stallings should be a shoo-in for the Gold Glove at catcher. My goodness, he has more defensive runs saved at his position than anyone in baseball does at any position. That's how extraordinary he's been back there. And obviously there's stuff that you want to watch grow in front of your eyes as it relates to the younger players. It would be tremendous if Hoy Park turned into a real player. It doesn't have to happen in these next 2 months, but somewhere along the line, and maybe you see some signs that are encouraging. Rodolfo Castro came up with a big burst. He's younger than Park. Maybe he's going to take a little bit more seasoning, but he's shown some of that as well. Let's see Ke'Bryan Hayes come out of this funk of his, which he started to do over the past series. The one good thing that happened in Cincinnati, along, of course, with everything that Reynolds does. But they're going to lose 100 games. They're going to lose 100 games. And I find myself torn as to whether or not that means anything. And I'll start with the easy route, I think, and that's to say that no, of course it doesn't mean anything because they're at a certain stage of their build. Everyone knew what was happening with payroll getting whacked the way it was. When you're just filling out the roster over the course of the year with a bunch of DFA candidates, and the best that comes of the group is Ben Gamel and John Nagowski, and, they eventually fade. This is what's going to happen. Not a big deal. What really mattered is that they went and they got even more prospects, loaded up the system, and within that had a handful of players at the Pittsburgh level really rise up. I've mentioned Reynolds, but you also have to count Adam Frazier into that equation. That's how you get value for Frazier. You have to count Richard Rodriguez into that. You have to count Tyler Anderson into that. So they've had things that happened in Pittsburgh that were positives for the organization for the longer term. Great. Which leaves me with the other one, which is that losing 100 games really stinks. This portion of Daily Shot of Pirates is brought to you by our friends at North Shore Tavern, directly across Federal Street from PNC Park. They're, of course, open and eager for your business before and after tonight's game, but they're also open and eager for your business on other nights. Don't think of North Shore Tavern the way you've thought of other establishments in that area over the years. And you know what I'm talking about, those businesses that were there that would only open and close for game days. Both North Shore Tavern and Mike's Beer Bar, the companion venture also owned by Mike Sukic, are just regular businesses. They're open even when the Pirates aren't around. come down and give them a visit. North Shore Tavern, right across Federal Street from PNC Park. 100 losses is 100 losses. And I don't believe that there's any way to characterize 100 losses with a shrug. I don't believe that positive spin exists for 100 losses. As I had been saying way back before spring training, losing 100 is hard. It does not happen very often in baseball. When it does happen, you're doing something wrong. So I feel very comfortable moving forward here in simultaneously crediting the Pirates for certain good steps that they've taken over the past year and a half, particularly as it relates to lower in the system, while at the same time saying that this ain't it. This ain't it. If you're really making something happen, and some of your acquisitions have come right to the majors, and I'm thinking of the Will Crow types, then you can't be losing 100 games. You just can't. There has to be something more going on as it relates to the talent at hand, the instruction at hand. And I'll say this for the millionth time, I appreciate and respect the dramatic improvement in the Pirates' fundamentals. They've become one of the better defensive teams in baseball. I know that sounds nuts, but it's true. It's statistically accurate. But there's nobody at any level of this organization who should look at 100 losses and say, this is just part of it. This is just how it's got to go. It isn't. And it never had to be. And if the Pirates can find a way, I mean, they won't, but if they can find a way to go 22-28 or better down the stretch, I'd like to think that would be a feather for all concerned. And no, stop talking about the draft. The Diamondbacks got that pick locked up here. When we come back, just one question. Welcome back. It's time for just one question. That comes today from Chris Smith, who asks, what are the chances that Reynolds gets a long-term extension this offseason? Management has mentioned he's a building block. Isn't it time to show it? Chris, I'm going to open with my obligatory qualifier because it sounded like you were hinting at it at the end of the question, that this isn't going to be about message sending, and it shouldn't be about message sending. Reynolds has 4 more years with his rights being held by the Pirates. He isn't going anywhere for 4 more years if the Pirates don't want him to. From there, an extension requires 2 parties, obviously, to get done. Reynolds has to want to get the extension, meaning from the Pirates, and to be part of what they're doing into the future. He has indicated multiple times that he'd like to do that, but you never know. What's going on in someone's head or what they're discussing with their agents. So it has to start there. The player has to be willing. The player has to be willing to hear having all 3 of his arbitration years bought out, and then to discuss, deliberate on how many free agency years they're willing to give up in order to do that, meaning how far the contract can go beyond the 3 arbitration years. Reynolds is a smart dude, and I have no doubt that he'll think long and hard about it, but I believe him. I think he would be amenable to a long-term contract. From the Pirates' standpoint, they just got to come up with the money. I mean, this is going to be one of those tests. You can go year to year and pay a guy on arbitration. You can leave it up to the arbitrator if you want and just pay whatever it is, like a bill showing up in your mailbox, like the electric bill. Oh, here it is. Here's the Reynolds bill. And you pay it at the end of the year. Whatever. I do recognize and respect that it would buy at least some goodwill among the fan base if the Pirates were to sign this player to a long-term contract. I have cynically interjected in the past, and will do it again, that not 5 minutes would pass before everyone would say, oh, now they're just going to trade him. Because really nothing would stop them from doing that. Can they do it? Yes. Should they do it? Yes. Will it happen? It takes two. It takes two. Reynolds is a smart guy. He's not going to get lowballed, and he's certainly not going to take any kind of hometown discount. If you want to keep him, you got to step up. Reynolds, Brian Hayes, this is where you start. And if you, as the Pirates, start putting these pieces in place from a purely baseball standpoint for all the right reasons, yes, there of course will be a repercussion and a reverberation through the community. Yes, of course. Even though, one more time, they can be traded at any time. I appreciate the question. I appreciate everybody listening to Daily Shot of Pirates. We'll do it again tomorrow.